want to invite another Steve Drinkall, to come and join me up here. Some of you know him. Put up your hand if you know Steve from the past. There's a couple. So I'm sure to have a bit of a cheer squad here today. So good to have him preach here. He's my direct report. So any complaints you have about me, you can tell him afterwards. Just straight up. So good to have you, Steve.
Thanks, AJ. Yes, it's great to be back. I was here at the church between 1996 and 2000, which is now, I realise, 25 years ago. And interestingly, I don't look any different. I look pretty much exactly the same as I did then. Some of you have changed quite a bit. I see Gary Owen, you look quite a bit older than I was, but no, it's great to be here. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I lack nothing. He makes me lay down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The great 23rd Psalm, which we've heard so many times, written by, I don't know whether you say King David or Shepherd David or Songwriter David, but the famous King David had written this psalm. And last week, Andrew spoke to us really well about the first verse. And he said, the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. I shall not want. We do have a great shepherd, and that God is able to sustain us and provide us and protect us and lead us. And Andrew talked about that we should then be listening for the voice of that shepherd, every day, every hour, every week, every year, that there is a good shepherd and that he's everything that we need. And then AJ has given me the huge passage of scripture to speak about today, which is just the very next verse, which says, he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. So I'm going to speak for 20 minutes about those few words. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. The first thing I kind of noticed about that was when he says, he makes me lie down. I mean, is God really in the business of making me lie down? Is it an instruction? Is he forcing me to lie down and rest? Is he inviting me? Is he suggesting? The verse seems to say that God is quite keen on the fact that I would stop, that I would lie down in green pastures, and that he would lead me beside quiet waters. And God seems much more interested in this than we are. Right? God seems much more urgent about the fact that we would stop and lay down than we are to stop and lay down. And God doesn't seem to have a problem of getting us worked up, on getting us moving and motivated and working. We will do that all day, every day. God's got the other problem of trying to get us to stop, put down the tools, slow down. He leads us. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside still waters. In the Old Testament, God calls a guy called Abraham, and he says, I want you and your family to leave where you are, and I want you to go out into the desert, and I'm going to start a whole new country or a whole new nation out of you and your family. So just leave where you're living now, take your family, go out there, and over time, he's going to form Abraham and his family into an entirely new nation. And so in a great act of faith, Abraham does that, and he walks out there, and over the next several hundred years, their family does swell and grow and become an enormous amount of people. They get caught up in in Egypt, if you remember it, and they get stuck there for about 400 years, and they grow and they multiply. And then a guy called Moses leads them out of there and through the Red Sea, as you know the story, and out into the desert. And they are becoming the nation of Israel. Not just in numbers, but in their thinking, and they're trying to learn what does it mean for us to be different, to be a nation under God. So in the middle of this process, Moses gets summoned by God to go up and get these 10 commandments, if you like, 10 kind of laws, and a whole bunch of other regulations and guidance and rules and things around how this nation's going to live like a nation under God. There's 10 big commandments. And there's some big ones in there, like do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not have other gods other than me, do not steal, do not covet. But right in the middle, there's one where God says, okay, when you're going to live as a nation under me, we're all going to take a day off every 7 days, okay? You can work for 6, but then we're going to have a Sabbath day, I'm calling it. It's a day off, and it is a day to rest, and we're going to make it holy. It's not a suggestion, it's an instruction. You can work hard as you like for 6 days, but on that 7th day, it is down tools, and I want you to trust that I can provide for you, sustain you, and protect you on that extra day. Can you do that? And I think we miss the countercultural nature of this instruction. These people are living in a desert, right? They are farmers. They're really kind of an agricultural people. They're nomadic, and they're only eating what they grew today or they caught today, right? They're only making houses or tents or structures or shelters if they do it. No one's going to do it for them. There's not a government. The pressure is to work every single day. Otherwise, they're going to fall behind, they're going to be vulnerable. And there would be an enormous drive in the people to keep working, to plant seed, to pull out weeds, to tend to the flock, to bring the harvest, to gather the fruit. Just keep going. Don't stop. And against that background, God is saying, I would like you to deliberately stop working. One day a week, I want you to stop producing anything. Stop trying to provide for yourselves. Stop trying to control the environment that you're in. Just stop it. Work as hard as you like for 6 days, and then I'm asking you to stop. Don't produce. Don't try and provide for yourselves. Don't try and secure your future for your family and friends. Trust that I will be those things for you in that day. So the whole idea of a Sabbath was like a physical, deliberate reminder of God saying, you are not machines. You are humans who have a shepherd. You're not production machines that are just designed and created to just go 7 days a week, constantly trying to manage your environment. You are humans, and there is a good shepherd, and he loves us, and he can sustain us and provide us and protect us. So every week we're going to stop deliberately as an act of faith, and we're going to rewire our hearts and minds that this is not all up to you. That I am a shepherd. We are a people under God. I can handle it. I can deal with it. I'm a God that can work all of the hours that you can't work. I'm a God that can handle all of the problems that you can't solve. I can hold all of the tensions that are just getting too much for you. I can handle it. So one day a week, let's stop and deliberately take that on board. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. And in the normal Christian life, God is going to lead us to times of rest. If we're just following Jesus and it's going how it should go, there are going to be regular times where God is saying it's time to stop. It's time to put it down. It's time to stop pretending that you can handle everything like you're a mini God. It's time to put that down. And God will lead us into his rest so that we can rewire our whole thinking about who we are in relation to this great shepherd of a God. God's rest is not for the lazy. It's a gift to those who simply cannot stop working. Sometimes we think that, having a day off, having a Sabbath, having weeks off, sabbaticals, entering into God's rest is something that the lazy people do. The people can't handle it, it can't keep up, can't be productive. But God's rest is not for the lazy. It is for a gift to people like me who simply cannot stop working, who live as if I'm a 7-day-a-week production machine. And God is trying to tell me that I'm a human with a shepherd. I have a friend who is on the autism spectrum. And I know that's a spectrum, and people experience that in all sorts of different ways. But my friend, he experiences this in that he is just constantly moving. Like, I mean physically moving, right? He's fidgeting, he's moving. He is a busy kind of guy. If he's watching television, he's not sitting on the couch. He's standing up and he's got a ball in his hand as he's watching the television. He's just constantly moving. And he explained to me, if you saw this guy, you would think he's really hyperactive. But what he explained to me is that if he's still, he feels like the whole world is moving. And the only way for him to feel still and control and manage his environment is to move. It's by physically moving that he is being still in the world and controlling his kind of world. So as he was a kid, his parents got him playing the drums, right? That just keeps him moving. It's something to do. He's playing soccer. He's engaged in things. He's physically moving. And you could think he's just hyperactive, but actually he's trying to desperately be still and control his world and deal with his environment in the only way that he knows how to do it. And I've often thought about him in that I'm almost the opposite of him. I'm not moving physically, but my brain is going 24/7. And I'm constantly, I'm thinking, I'm preparing, I'm creating things, I'm trying to manage things, I'm preparing, I'm trying to solve problems. I'm trying to solve problems that don't even exist, or they're in the future. My brain is going. And those of you who know me well will know that's the case. But God is saying to me, Steve, you don't need to think all day, every day. You don't need to do 7 days straight of that. You're living as if you don't have a shepherd. You're living as if you don't have a shepherd. There's a time to rest, and God will lead me to lie down in green pastures and lead me beside quiet waters. Because unless I stop, I never really get the idea that God can look after me. So I've got to just keep doing it myself. I've got to solve that problem. I've got to handle that responsibility. I've got to come up with that thing. I've got to manage that relationship. I've got to be the person. And unless I enter God's rest, I will do that 7 days a week. It's a radical act of faith to stop and put your faith into the hands of God. But we often think that a day's rest or entering God's rest or taking a Sabbath or whatever we call it is kind of it's for people who kind of can't cope. It's a bit of a soft skill, it's a bit of maybe for the artistic people amongst us, but it doesn't really feel like it's good for CEOs of companies and captains of sporting teams and warriors and kings. They don't have time for a day off to rest in God's presence, right? They're doing much too important things for that. But it's worth knowing that the writer of this Psalm, David, he is an artist. Right? He is a soft guy. He does have soft skills. And he is a warrior. He has a whole tribe of the mighty men of David. He is a king of a warrior country. He's the one who's saying, God leads me to lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters. And it reminded me, I was thinking about this week, of the great St. Patrick. We hear about St. Patrick, the missionary and the Bishop of Ireland who kind of reached all of the Irish nation really for Christ. We know a bit about it at St. Patrick's Day and what have you. But his story is unbelievable. He is one of the true super saints of the faith, is St. Patrick. And in the end of his life, I'll cut to the end first, he does go on to win the entire nation of Ireland. The vast majority of those people come to Christ. And not only that, they set up monasteries and evangelism, which will go into Europe and almost re-Christianize the entire of Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire in around 400 AD. This is a stunning, stunning Christian guy. But his story started at 8 years of age when he was in England. He lived in England. He wasn't Irish at all. But one day, when he was just a kid, the age of some of these kids here, marauders came to his village and stole him out of his house. Slave traders stole him away from his parents' home at 8 years of age, put him on a ship, took him to Ireland, into Northern Ireland, where it's freezing cold, up on the Antrim coast, and he was a slave, and he was put to work as a goat herder up in the hills of the Antrim Mountains. He was absolutely petrified, as you can imagine. He said he only had 2 companions. He was desperately lonely, but his 2 companions were hunger and nakedness. They were with him the whole time. He's up there for weeks with these goats. He's just completely displaced, filled with grief. He's just an absolute mess. And he says in his own kind of words, he says, I didn't believe in God. So I didn't believe in God. I wasn't a Christian. I thought the priests were foolish. But here I am at 8 or 10 years old in the hills, freezing and naked and just having this job to do with these goats. He said, I started to remember some songs that I'd learnt as a kid. And I started to remember a few verses that I'd learnt in Sunday school or whatever their version was. They came back to me, and so I quoted them and I remembered them. And I started to pray. And I prayed through the day and I prayed through the night. And over time, God became very present to Patrick and really like his best and only friend for a period of about 6 years while he's wandering around with these goats in the freezing cold mountains. And he develops a great relationship, connection, trust in God, where he knows that God is my shepherd. I shall not want. And over this 6 years, he goes from kind of careless kid to almost a holy man in this refining time of his life. And then about 6 years later, he hears a voice. He's out in the hills one day praying, and he hears a voice, and it says, "Arise, Patrick, your hungers have been heard. You're going home. Your ship has arrived." And he's looking around to see where the voice comes from. "Arise, Patrick, your hungers have been heard. You're going home. Your ship has arrived." And so he packs his few things and just starts walking. And he walks something like 200 miles across country he's never been on before. And it's kind of dangerous through the country. He's a fugitive slave. But somehow he makes it through this thing. He doesn't get followed. He doesn't get captured. And he makes it to the ocean where here is his ship, Patrick's ship, ready to take him back to England. He said the trip built his faith in God, that God was protecting him. And he said, I came in God's strength because I had nothing to fear. The trip has refined Patrick into someone absolutely reliant on God. So he goes back and he eventually finds his family in England. There's a huge reunion. And then his mum says to him, "Patrick, don't ever leave us again. Please, whatever you, don't ever leave us again." And Patrick doesn't intend to leave home. But he's got no job. And he can hardly speak English, let alone speak kind of some Gaelic or Irish or whatever. He can't write. All he has is God, and he's a goat herder. So he decides to kind of go to Bible college or whatever it was. He'd be a priest. He thinks, maybe I can do that. I know God. Surely I can do that. So he goes to be a priest, but he's hopeless at it because he can't read, he can't write. All of his peers are miles in front of him. What they get done in 2 or 3 years, he takes 10 years to get done. And when he finally kind of graduates as a priest, no church wants him because he's not good enough, right? He's not educated enough. He's not a good enough speaker. So after God's led him through all of this stuff, he has a dream. And in the dream, a guy who he knew in Ireland is there, and he says, "Patrick, we beg you, come and walk amongst us again. Come to Ireland. Come and walk among the Irish again." And he doesn't want to go, but he's got nothing else doing. So eventually he goes back there to Ireland. Now this is meek, mild Patrick. And when he turns up in Ireland, Ireland are a barbaric people. They are outside the Roman Empire. These are literally the barbarians or the ferals that are outside the civilization that is the Roman Empire. They are just, if you've ever seen things like, the Roman Empire had a wall. Hadrian's wall that goes across there was the end of the Roman Empire. And everyone inside this is civilized. If you're on the other side of the wall, you're a feral and a barbaric kind of people. And these are who Patrick goes to. If you've ever seen the Irish gods, they are nightmarish. They are just frightening, the gods. And this is a highly, highly anxious people. They're scared of each other. They're scared of the gods. They're scared of supernatural things like leprechauns and sprites and demonic experiences that they've kind of had. They're scared of that. They're scared of other tribes. This is a violent, aggressive, anxious environment where everyone sleeps with one eye open. They just don't know what's going to happen. And they have a sense that the world is full of hidden traps. And it's just a matter of time where they're going to get caught in some snare or someone's going to attack them. There's full of anxious traps. And that they are petrified of death. So they know they're going to get caught at some point when they don't expect it, and they're petrified to die. So when Patrick turns up there into this highly anxious environment, he goes on to win almost the entire of Ireland to Christ and then start an enormous missionary movement. And people have often said, what did he do? What did he do to make such a change? And they've kind of come up with two things. One is that he had an amazing love for his people. He just loved the Irish people. And it wasn't put on. It was undeniable. It was a gritty, serving, doing love that just flowed out of Patrick, and they all knew his great love. But before he got to that, his superpower was that he was at peace in himself and he refused to be scared of them. He just was so courageous. He was not scared of them. And they tried to intimidate him. They tried to kind of put the fear of God literally into him. But he just refused to be intimidated by them. And I'll quote him. He says, every day I'm ready to be murdered, betrayed, enslaved, whatever comes my way. But I am not afraid of any of these things because of the promises of heaven. For I have put my life in the hands of God Almighty. Every day I'm facing murder, betrayal, they're trying to get me, they're trying to beat me up, that they are against me, but I don't fear any of these things because of the promises of heaven and because I have thrown my life into the hands of Almighty God. I have nothing to fear. And he presented as a man that was at peace and a person of peace. And against that backdrop, those big, tough Irish guys, they just melted. They could not believe that you could be like that you could have such assurance, such peace, such trust in your God, that it could shape your life, and they wanted it. They wanted what Patrick had. And he explained to them the way that they could have that through Jesus. Patrick had been with God. God had made Patrick to lay down in green pastures, to walk beside quiet waters. Patrick had been with God. He'd been with God's rest. And it just showed up in such confidence in God that ultimately he won of all of Israel to Christ. Resting in God is an aggressive move to remind us that we are not machines. We're not supposed to be machines. We are humans who have a good shepherd who can provide and sustain for us. And when we rest in God, it just allows us to just loosen our grip a little bit on all of those things that we hold so tightly. You know them in your own mind right now. The things that you just can't stop thinking about, managing, handling, trying to control, trying to whatever. When we take God up and rest in him, lay down in green pastures, it allows you to just loosen your grip a little bit and actually live as if you have a shepherd that can provide and sustain and protect you. So if we believed Andrew last week when he spoke about verse 1, which said that the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing, then I just simply want to encourage us to believe the second verse as well, which says, God will lead us to lie down in green pastures. He will lead us beside still waters. And if we can do that, it can become our superpower because we will have rested and been with God.